Hi, everybody. Last week, I shared some of my goals for the year 2024. I don't really get into resolutions per se, but I do like to use the new year to think about and reflect on where I'd like to be a year from now. And I've been thinking over the past week about what I need to do to reach those goals. And I decided I'm going to spend a lot of time this year journaling. I'm going to choose a specific topic that is important for me to reflect on and to process for my own healing. Writing has always been a great outlet for me, and it is for a lot of people, and it might be helpful for you too. So if you feel like it would help you, I invite you to join me. I'm going to be sharing what I write about from time to time, and I encourage you to consider writing on that topic yourself. Today I'd like to share my very first journal entry, and the topic is this: write about how you felt as a child and an adolescent. How did you feel around your mother? How do you remember feeling in general? Now, to do this, it's important not to just write about it like as an outsider. At least to me, it's important to go to those places and to feel those things. And of course, that's very hard to do for people like us who have a parent who is a covert narcissist. But you can't process and work through difficult emotions unless you feel them. Maybe that sounds scary to you, and I'm going to be totally honest and open here. It was really terrifying for me to think about. I don't want to feel those things, but the truth is I do feel them to some degree all the time. I've just learned how to keep it below the surface. And so I spent some time closing my eyes and just really imagining the home I grew up in, the school, what I was experiencing, and what I was feeling. And yes, it's very hard. It's very painful. Examining your past so you can transform your future, that's a sign of courage and resilience. And keep that in mind. I'm going to break the patterns of my past and move toward the future that I want. And if you decide to do this with me, remember to be kind to yourself, listen to yourself, trust yourself. Feeling these very intense emotions can exhaust you mentally and emotionally. And if at some point you feel like you need a break or you need to stop, trust that instinct. When your mind and body are telling you to rest, it's okay to rest. Be patient with yourself. Sometimes you just need time to let everything sort of calm down before taking that next step, and that's okay. Well, with that all said, I'm going to share what I wrote. This was really painful for me, but I do feel like it helped me just to write it out and think about it. As a child, I felt incredibly lonely all the time. I was alone at home. I was bullied relentlessly at school. The two friends I had while I was growing up had nothing in common with me. I didn't even really enjoy spending my time with them, but I was friends with them because it was those two people or it was no one. I just wanted to not feel so alone, so I spent time with whoever would allow me to spend time with them. I did not believe I deserved good, solid friendships. I saw all the other kids at school playing with each other, and they never wanted to play with me. They made fun of me. This was in the 80s when cooties was a big thing. Everybody said I had cooties. They better not touch me or come near me or touch my things. I was so alone and not cared about anywhere I went. The loneliness reached to extreme depths. I felt like I was perpetually on an island with a telescope. I could look through it across the sea and observe people around me, but not actually feel like I was truly with them. And I desperately wished I could be. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I sometimes would climb onto my mother's lap wanting to snuggle, but she'd get irritated with me and make me get down. I just wanted to feel that touch. But that almost never happened. My mom just never wanted to touch me. I used to look at other houses in the neighborhood and wish I lived there in those families. It was like a dream. I just wanted to be happy. But I wasn't. I used to play with my stuffed animals and pretend like they were alive and that they could hear me. I imagined that they loved me and that they loved spending time with me. I still have a few of those stuffed animals to this day. I've never been able to bring myself to get rid of them. Like old friends. In some ways, they were my only friends during my childhood. I had a stuffed Garfield with exercise shorts and a sports band around his head. I got rid of it at some point after my teenage years. A few years ago, just out of the blue, I was thinking about that Garfield and wished I'd never gotten rid of it. I literally cried, and I knew this was a very odd way to feel about it, but I wished so badly I still had that Garfield. I scoured the internet trying to find one. I looked on eBay. No one had that exact one. I better understand now why I felt that way. These toys were who I had. In my imagination, it was a dear friend, and that has stuck in my mind all these years. I missed it. I didn't have anyone else from that time in my life to miss. Maybe it was a deep longing resurfacing, a yearning for unconditional love, something I've really never had. I've always wished I had just one person in my life who put me first. Just one relationship where I wasn't second or third on the priority list. Just one. A damn stuffed toy is as close as I've ever gotten. Maybe that's why I was missing that Garfield toy. I don't know. I felt empty. Like inside my chest. I felt like there was supposed to be something there, but it just wasn't. It wasn't just a feeling of nothingness. It was an ache, like an empty ache. It was this constant, pulsing, terrible ache that I could never get to go away. I didn't know what was supposed to go there to stop the pain, but I wished I knew what and that I had it. When I was a teenager, being around my mother was almost always a terrible experience. It felt like something was directly above me and pushing down on me, like this awful feeling of anger, dread, and pain was like a cloud directly above my head and pushing invisible forces down onto my body. I was stressed. I had so much anxiety. I just wanted her away from me. As much as I wish my mother would touch me when I was a child, during my adolescence, I could not stand it when she touched me, and I have felt this way about her well into my adulthood. A terrible, crushing feeling of anxiety squeezes down on me whenever she would touch me. I started to tell her how she was making me feel. At first, I thought I could get her to listen and things could get better, but that never happened on any level. She would either become totally enraged at me, or she would laugh at me. I tried and tried and tried to tell her, but she just treated this immense pain I was in like a joke, or she would attack me and make me feel even more hurt than I already was. And so I became angry, just so angry. Why wouldn't she just listen to me? Why didn't she care that she was hurting me so badly? It built to such intense levels that one day when she was yelling at me, I started shouting back at her to stop yelling at me. I just remember yelling, "Stop! please stop yelling at me. And she started yelling at me even louder, and I felt so completely overwhelmed. I dropped to my knees and I began to practically scream, "Will you just listen to me?" I was so upset. I was in so much pain. The interior of my chest felt like it was on fire. I needed my mom to care about how I was feeling. I made myself completely vulnerable, and I knelt before her, hysterically sobbing and screaming in immense, suffocating pain. And she laughed at me and just walked off into another room, leaving me there on the floor, totally unmoved and not caring at all. She did not care one single bit. I would get so enraged at her. I couldn't bear to even be around her. My face and neck would feel extremely hot if she touched me or was standing near me. Explosive rage bubbled deep down inside me. One day I was sitting on the couch and she sat down right next to me, squishing the left side of my body. There was plenty of room on the couch, but she sat right up against me. By this time, being touched by my mother caused an absolutely intolerable feeling of rage. So I asked her to move down more and give more room on the couch. She refused to move, and from that day on, if she ever sat on the couch while I was on it, she would sit right up against me like that while she watched TV or whatever. She didn't do this in an affectionate way. She was just carrying on with her business like I wasn't even there, like she wasn't bumping me and moving up against me, even though she was totally smushing the side of my body she was sitting on. She absolutely never respected my requests or boundaries. If I asked her to not do something, she would do it even more, endlessly, every opportunity she had. She never remembered things about me that I like and don't like. She was oblivious to who I am and who I was as a person. Even just simple, easy things to remember. Like, just as an example, I didn't like nuts when I was growing up, and she just never remembered. She'd make cookies for the family or banana bread or whatever, and then act shocked every time when I wouldn't eat them because they had nuts in them, when something like that had happened like 100 times. That may not seem like I should be upset about that, but this is just an example of so many things. She had no idea what kind of music I liked, what hobbies were important to me, what I enjoyed spending my time doing, what my favorite color is, what kind of clothes I preferred. I went to a camp all summer, every summer, for like 2.5 months and washed dishes because I just wanted to be away from home. And one of those times, the ride I thought I was going to have fell through. And from some discussions about how I was going to get back home, I realized my mom had no idea where I was. I was about 3 hours from home, and she thought I was about 20 minutes from our house. And I did that every summer, and she never even knew where I was. She has never really known me as a person. When people were around, she would hug me and act so loving toward me, but she never acted that way behind closed doors. So when she would hug me in those situations, I felt like I was being smashed by the universe. Like that cloud above my head would now be all over my body and crushing me, and I absolutely hated it. To this day, if I even imagine my mother touching me, I feel like aggressively swinging an arm in that direction to force her away from me. I remember feeling hatred toward her as a teenager. I hated having her around. I hated it when she even spoke to me because she was almost always yelling at me or barking orders at me. And even when she wasn't, she talked to me that way so much that I still hated when she spoke to me in other ways. I wanted so badly for her to just care, but she didn't, ever. It's so hard for me to understand this. My son is the most important thing in the world to me. I care so much about him. I would do anything for him. And at times that I've failed him, I have always apologized and done whatever I could to make it right because I want him to be happy and healthy. I want him to feel how deeply loved he is by me. It's hard to understand how my mother exists in a space where she does not experience those feelings for one of her children. I was certain there was something terribly, deeply wrong with me, that no one would ever enjoy being with me, that no one would ever like me. And I still struggle with these feelings today. I'm 47 years old, and those feelings have stayed with me all these years. I used to feel like my family would be so much happier if I were dead or if I had never been born. The source of all the problems seemed to be me. If someone was yelling, it was at me. If someone was complaining, it was about me. If someone was being disciplined, it was me. Even if my sister had just done the same thing. It was just always about me if it was something bad. And it was never about me if it was something good. And I couldn't understand what I was doing that was so awful. But I did believe I must be doing something very wrong, and I just couldn't figure out what. All of these feelings have stayed with me well into my adult years on some level, and they have affected every relationship I've been a part of, both personally and professionally. I'm coming to understand that my mother just simply didn't love me. She used me. She needed a scapegoat, and she assigned that role to me. It sucks, and it is horrifically unfair. But the reason I felt so uncared about by my mother is because she did not care about me. I won't ever get love or care from her. I have to accept that. So it's up to me to love myself. I don't fully know how to do that, but I am going to learn how. We normally learn to love ourselves through the love we feel from our mothers. I never got to have that, so I'm going to have to learn to do it on my own. I don't want to feel like I'm always a burden to others anymore. I don't want to be in a constant state of fear that I'm bothering the people around me anymore. I don't want to feel the self-doubt. I don't want to feel like I have to sacrifice every part of who I am because I feel like that's what I have to do to earn other people's tolerance of my presence. I don't want to feel like I should tolerate mistreatment from others because that's what I deserve. I am sick and tired of feeling this way all the time, everywhere I go. I don't want to just feel loved. I want to feel worthy of love. I want to truly grasp my value as a person. And I am determined to make that happen for me. I hope you were able to relate to that in some way. And if writing is an outlet for you or you feel like it would help you, then I encourage you to go ahead and write your own journal entry on this topic. Please remember that I'm here to listen. I really do care about all of you out there who are going through what I'm going through. I love to hear from you. I love to read your comments and have conversations with you, so never feel hesitant to share if you want to. I'll see you next week. And please remember, to all my fellow survivors out there, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are beautiful, whether your mom sees that or not.